Good afternoon. Welcome to the March 7th edition of Sports on Sunset. I'm Chris Berman.
I am.
Wow, two places at once. We've broken the laws of physics. The topic for today, we had spent the last couple of weeks talking about the NFL draft. We're switching gears this time, thank God. As you know, the NBA playoffs are in full swing. And the first round of the NBA playoffs were marked, I don't want to say barred, opinions can vary, with a little bit more violence.
Oh yeah.
Which I always think is typical in the NBA playoffs anyway. But then, of course, the cat calls come out. Cat calls. I'm trying to be nice. The whole thing about how coaches will be like, oh, I want calls my way, and this, that, or, blah, blah, blah. And somebody, I'll bring out the history of it, somebody requested that the NBA re-examine 3 to make 2. For those of you who don't know, 3 to make 2 was a staple in the NBA up until the early 1980s. What happens is, the rule back then was, if a team was in the penalty, and I fouled you, you had 3 free throws to make the 2. The reason that this particular former coach is talking about bringing it back,
Which coach was it?
I'll mention it, because there is a bit of history there. The reason that this particular former coach is talking about bringing it back is obviously, you think about people like Dwight Howard, but also because if you think about it, the idea that maybe it's a little bit easier to foul people considering the fact that free throw shooting percentages have gone down.
Yeah.
Therefore, you go say, hey, if I give you the extra free throw, maybe the other team scores more points and it eliminates some of the penalty. So, I'm ambivalent towards this, but I think anything that could possibly make the NBA a little bit more watchable, a little bit more high-flying is not necessarily a bad thing. On the other hand, I enjoy a good fight. Or even an NBA fight, which really isn't a fight.
Not since the Bill ain't beer day.
So you tell me, a decent idea or out of...
It's not a bad idea. It's actually they should bring it back. For the very reasons you mentioned. Dwight Howard, Hasek from the Houston Rockets. You have a lot of big men that can make 2 out of 3 regardless. So for those...
Or 2 consecutive.
Yeah, 2 consecutive. So like if that rule was reinstituted, teams like who was the one that was doing it in the playoffs last year? Was it Oklahoma City?
They may have been.
They were intentionally fouling different people. And if you bring it back, that would stop. And a lot of the basketball would clean up because then you'd have Dwight Howard possibly making 2 out of 3. And then it's a moot point.
The other reason, of course, is that it not only takes away violence, or violent violence, possibly, but the other reason is that the whole thing about what they call Hack-A-Dwight, where the ball hasn't even crossed half point yet. It's like, hey, everybody,
That's not good basketball. Nobody wants to watch that.
Here's the coach. It was Phil Jackson.
I can see that.
And the reason I noticed that it was Phil Jackson this time, but it wasn't his first time bringing it up. He brought it up as coach of the Lakers in the year 2000.
Really?
For Hack-A-Shack.
Makes sense.
But then here comes the counter argument. And by the way, back in 2000 when he first made up the suggestion, he backtracked a couple of days later. He was like, there's nothing I can say about it, because he was saying basically the gods at NBC, which had the TV coverage back then, were the ones who are going to dominate what gets made or whatnot, whether you choose to believe that.
I actually do.
Yeah. I do not want to be perceived as such a homer that I would actually argue for rule changes, with the theory being to help my team. How much of it is me bringing that up being a Laker, because I'm not sure.
I don't think this is a Laker thing. I think this is a pure basketball thing. There's a like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people in the NBA right now, as you mentioned, that are terrible free throw shooters.
Right.
And they would benefit greatly from not having to get hit over and over again. Steve Francis comes to mind. Steve Francis was Hack-A-Dwight. If he didn't have to, and he also was a horrible free throw shooter. Yao Ming was the best free throw shooter on the Houston Rockets back in those days. And if Steve Francis would have had 3 chances to make these 2 shots, along with the other teams of opposing players fouling out, sure his scoring average would have been astronomical because all he did was a rim.
Have you ever considered other alternatives to try and avoid things such as, in this case, Hack-A-Dwight? Because here's the problem for you as a Pistons fan. Pistons, would they have still gone with the bad boys thing, considering that their first title came against the LA Lakers, the Showtime Lakers. Now, part of the reason they were able to sweep the Lakers that year were the injuries to Magic and Byron Scott. Assuming the moment Scott and Magic are healthy, do they still play the kind of basketball? If it was 3 to make 2, would they have been? You see what I'm saying?
Well, certainly. If it was 3 to make 2, then Isaiah Thomas probably would have led to the title of the previous year.
How so? That was speculative.
Because he was getting the hammer going down the lane over and over again. So he couldn't go down the lane much.
With that said, I'm not trying to say the Lakers. I'm not trying to say the Lakers were as pure as the driven snow. But Detroit was the bad boys for a reason.
Yeah.
A well-deserved reason.
Well, they were baiting people into fighting. They weren't fighting. They were baiting people into hitting them. That's a lot of it. Like they were hitting Michael Jordan. They were baiting Magic Johnson. That's the difference.
Have you ever considered any other alternatives? I mean, we're both basketball fans. Have you ever thought of it? Is this the best alternative that you've seen or pitched? Granted, it's from Phil Jackson. I don't think you have an animus toward the guy. But with that said,
it's not the best suggestion. The best suggestion was, as far as the intentional fouls go, the home team gets to pick who shoots like the Hack-A-Shack. The Hack-A-Shack had the home team got to pick anybody they wanted to shoot the free throws and then get the ball back because they're intentionally fouling somebody. That was the best alternative. They didn't do it.
Tell me what's on your mind, brother.
What's on my mind is a story. I had something else, but this takes precedent. It's a story that was just released today. Apparently, we talk about rough basketball play. Funny enough, I'm a child of the '80s, born in the '70s. I happen to like staunch defense, some physical play in my basketball. It's just what I enjoy. I enjoy the Memphis Grizzlies series where they beat the Los Angeles Clippers. I enjoyed it because it was physical, and Zach Randolph manned up and abused Blake Griffin for an entire series. Having said that, there's not much that I object with, but the story that was released today made me giggle. It's a Ronaldo, the clerk, the clerk guru, whatever the fuck your name is. Ronaldo, you are a man. Well done, sir. I don't know if you know who Ronaldo, the clerk of the guru is. Yeah. He's the guy who elbowed the president in the mouth during a pickup game of basketball. Back in 2010. The president had to get 12 stitches in his lips because the clerk felt like swinging elbows at the president. He's the only person that's ever elbowed the president in the mouth and never got arrested for it. It is beautiful. Seriously. That is the most beautiful thing. Andrew, Ronaldo, the Klingerberger, hats off to you for playing physical. I know they didn't invite you back to play basketball since then.
Yeah.
He was a former basketball trainer as well.
You're kind of like left on the blacklist.
Yeah. You elbowed the president in the mouth.
Yeah.
You know, They took away Bush's bicycle, I believe. Didn't let Clinton run anymore. He's unhappy with this story. I just want to take hats off to Ronaldo the Clerk. Your commercial.
Guys,
Fuck you!
I agree.
Fuck you! Fuck your ass up! Fuck you! I don't give a fuck! Surf me to stop this way! Fuck you! Yeah, that shit funny, huh? It's funny, huh? It's funny? Is it funny? Fuck you! Fuck you, dude. Is it funny? Is it motherfucking funny? Is it funny? Do you wanna fuck with me? Today? Do you wanna fuck with me? Keep talking. Yeah, talking your fucking shit.
okay, so here's the thing about the Dodgers, right? The thing with the Dodgers is this: they've spent a lot of money to try and get a whole bunch of players in, and I think at this point we have to actually come up with the whole thing about why it's not working. No, I didn't want to say that to Magic. I didn't want to say it to any of the players. But what I will say is this: it isn't working. It's not working, guys. You gotta go and go get yourself a new manager. I guess he doesn't like Don Mattingly either. We'll see what happens next
You ain't
week.
fucking with me, I know the fucking fight. Fuck you.
And this is why I always wanted to have it taped outside. We'll see you next week. I'm James.